Crazy weekend in college football, especially in the SEC East. The Tigers take care of business against Ole Miss 38-27, and now they're first place in the SEC East. Hello again, everybody. Welcome to Tiger Sidelines on MC22. That's Dave Matter and Gabe DeArmond, and I'm Bo Bayman. What a wild weekend. Before we get to everybody else, let's take care of business at Faurot Field, just like Missouri did. It was an interesting game where they made some mistakes, but were able to overcome some. Right. They had turnovers, they had penalties, but they were good enough to beat the Rebels.
It seemed like they were almost always in control. I mean, Ole Miss scored first, but they never really got down by more than, 10 or 11? And some of that was just because they kept missing extra points.
I think it was 7-3 was the only time they trailed, right?
Yeah. I know. I meant Missouri was never the lead was always within double digits once the game got going there, and I think it was good that they got pushed around a little bit late and just kind of challenged because we hadn't seen this team have to respond to that in a long time. And I think you can take away some value in all of a sudden having to wake up in the fourth quarter and make some plays.
Tigers now 5-1 on the season, 2-0 in the SEC as they head to Vanderbilt. One thing that happened again this week, Gabe, was the opposing team goes right down the field and scores, and it's 7-0 early. Then the Tigers sort of buckle down.
Well, and I'm not sure how you prepare for John Rice Plumlee.
Yeah.
I mean, I said he's the fastest quarterback I've seen in person in a while. I mean, I think he's every bit as fast as Kyler Murray was last year. He's got that kind of speed, and Missouri actually really did a pretty good job defensively other than him. I mean, Ole Miss ran for 202 yards, and he had 140 of them. And this is a team that was running for 230 a game, so they were actually below average, and it was really all off the one guy.
It's interesting, their two quarterbacks. One guy runs real well. The other guy throws real well, but they didn't seem to put it together.
Yeah, I'm not sure why they were rotating so much, unless they just felt like they owed Matt Corral, once he was healthy, that he had to get out there. But especially on that goal line stand, your running threat quarterback is on the sideline watching. And, okay, all they need was a couple feet. His speed is maybe a little not necessary then. But still, man, I think if you go back, if you're Rich Rodriguez and you're Matt Luke, you might question taking out Plumlee because he was all they had.
And fourth and 3, you're throwing a 40-yard pass downfield. There were some curious. I mean, Missouri was the better team, but Ole Miss probably had a couple opportunities that they regretted on Sunday morning.
No question about it. Missouri got ranked on Sunday, number 22, first time they've been ranked this season. And as we go to the offensive side, Kelly Bryant came in. There were questions about his knee. Would he play? Would he play the whole game? He played the whole game, and really no ill effects of the knee that I saw.
One of two things. Either he was never really hurt, and it was all just maybe he was overreacting a little bit, or two, that guy is tough as can be because you wouldn't have known. I thought maybe they'd just sit him in the pocket the whole time. He ran 10 times. A couple of those were sacks, but he scrambled. He looked fine, and throwing the ball on the run or in the pocket, he looked as good as he's looked all season. So that guy deserves a lot of credit. And I think Barry Odom was most impressed. He didn't miss a single rep in practice. It wasn't like they had to hold him out for a couple of days and just save him for Saturday.
And wasn't it last week Barry Odom was saying this was his best week of practice?
Yeah, and I really came out of that Ole Miss game thinking that Bryant is exactly what the most optimistic fans in the preseason thought he was, which is he's not going to get drafted where Drew Lock did. He can't sit back there and just kill a defense with his arm the way sometimes Drew Lock could. But you know what he does that Drew Lock never did? When things are down, he turns it around. I mean, his defense gives him a goal line stand. He scores 2 straight touchdowns. He throws a pick. His defense gets it back. He goes down and ices the game. I mean, that's a guy who a couple times this year, even in the Wyoming game where they got beat, brought them back to the point where they could. He's a guy that is able to turn things around mid-game, which was not the case here for the last 4 years.
And the depth on offense was tested. I mean, you saw 3 running backs, and when you have depth, it shows that you're a pretty good program. And they have 3 guys who can tote the rock.
For a while there, I think fans were wondering, is Roundtree hurt? Is Beatty hurt? Why is Dawson Downing in there? Everyone was wondering, then he runs off for a 54-yard touchdown. It wasn't a trick play or anything. It was just a inside zone running play. And that's great for this team. And you keep those guys fresh for the second half of the season. They're really figuring out a way to use Beatty. He's not a guy that you necessarily have to give the ball running to 15 times a game. They're throwing to him, and he's really effective there. They've got a nice group of 3 running backs there that they're all, I think, should be involved in the running game.
And that's where depth is huge. I looked at the snap counts from Sunday. Jonathan Nance missed 3 snaps. Alberto missed 10. They can do that because they had 4 weeks where they were playing like 30 snaps a game. So they're rested. You actually kind of hope this is another week where maybe they can do that and then build up a little bit for Kentucky, get a bye, and you should go into week 9 with like everybody pretty rested.
And the tougher part of the schedule is upcoming. I mean, when you get into week 9 and week 10, I mean, that's going to be the whole SEC East right there.
Absolutely. I mean, when you've got Florida and Georgia still coming up, I will say I think Missouri is just they're 2-0 against the 3rd and 4th best teams that they'll play in the SEC, South Carolina and Ole Miss. I mean, is anybody else better than them besides Florida and Georgia?
I don't think they're better, but the Kentucky game is interesting to
it's
me.
on the road.
It's on the road. They haven't beaten them in a while, and the only thing that's given this defense problems is a mobile quarterback. And Lynn Bowden is not even a quarterback, but he ran for 196 yards last week. Now, I don't think he can throw at all, so Missouri should win that game. But that one, I guess it's the toughest game left outside of those two.
Yeah. And it's one, the good thing to me is there's a bye week after it. I mean, because if it was Kentucky, Georgia, all of a sudden you think, let's look ahead to the Bulldogs. You don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
You got 2 weeks to prepare for
that sets up nice. So then you're not going on the road technically for 3 weeks in a row. You get that break in between.
Special teams, not so good. I mean, Jonathan Johnson had a tough day at the office, missed 2 extra points.
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty bad.
Everybody wants to blame coaching on that, but how do you got your kicker who's in position to be Missouri's all-time leading scorer and all of a sudden can't hit an extra point? Fine on field goals, but the extra points you can't hit.
I mean, I looked it up. Do you know how many extra points he's missed in his career? 11.
Yeah.
Like, that's 3 a season. And I'd rather have him kick a 47-yard field goal than a 25-yard field goal. Like, it's just, I think those of us who have followed this program for a while, like, remember when Jeff Wolford kicked, like, you didn't watch because you knew it was going in. And now, like, McCann makes most of his kicks, but there's never a kick where you go, well, yeah, I know he's going to make this. I can go get a drink during this play.
Yeah, and when they go off the upright, I think the first one went off the right upright, and the second one
was off the right also.
I think so too. I mean, it's like, okay, aren't you correcting a little bit there?
And it didn't look like it was a problem with the snap or the hold. It just looked like he missed them.
And Jonathan Johnson had a tough day. Yeah. That was a really great defensive stand, and then when you muff the punt and get them back out on the field.
Well, and I mean, kind of everybody saw the possibility of that, right? Like, JJ's done a lot of good things, but none of them have been on punt return, really. And it was interesting after the game, he said, like, I knew I probably wasn't going to return punts again after that. And they put Cade Musser in. They really are better off just catch the ball. Yeah. That's all you have to do. We need no return yards. Just catch the ball and we'll take it. I think we've seen the last of him as a punt return guy. But on the flip side, he had probably his best offensive game of his career, including 2 20-yard catches that really iced the game on plays where both times I said, I don't understand why they're throwing, but they did, and it worked.
I was just about to bring that up. He did have a good day as a wide receiver.
Yeah, I think 5 of his 8 catches went for first downs. They used him on a few other things, and he was really good, just very clutch when they needed a play.
And I don't think he's completely healthy because he was in and out of that game. He played fewer than 30 snaps, and he had 8 catches for 110 yards.
He was not. He got they had a face mask against him. He was not happy. They had to hold him back. Right. He was going to take off after that guy from Ole Miss.
On offense, Yasir Durant was named the SEC Lineman of the Week. And really, the offensive line played pretty well, kept Kelly Bryant clean.
Yeah, and they didn't rotate guys in. They stuck with the same 5. He got sacked a couple times. One of them was just it looked like just a missed assignment somewhere. But I thought they were pretty sound, ran the ball really effectively against a decent defense, too.
Back on Missouri's defense, the first game without Cale Garrett. So how do we grade the defense? And I mean, that's a 60-minute feeling out period without that guy.
Yeah, I think that's one thing people are forgetting. The best offense, maybe the best offense they have on the schedule the rest of the year. Like, I think offensively, Ole Miss might be better than Georgia and Florida. And without the guy who's in charge of the whole thing, you don't just immediately roll out and everything works. But Cameron Wilkins forced a fumble. He was in on the goal line stand. I thought Nick Bolton in the first half was phenomenal. So I thought they were fine.
It certainly was the next man up, wasn't it? I mean, you could kind of see that, like, okay, this is my time to shine.
Right, and I think it was important. I'm sure this message was relayed from the coaches on down all week. Like, hey, Cam Wilkins isn't going to be Cale Garrett. He's not going to save this team. Everybody has to play better. That, the coaches got to do more because Caleb's kind of a coach out there, so they've got to step up and help. And I thought for the most part, yeah, that maybe in the second half they let up some drives there, but you almost just give Plumlee credit for those. I mean, he was just faster than anybody else out there. He also had a touchdown erased.
That's right.
On a pretty unnecessary holding call on the edge. And then he also had a touchdown pass that probably should have gone had he just not overthrown the guy a little bit more.
But they also threw 2 touchdown passes that, like, coverage was pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, they were just really good throws.
No doubt. So the Tigers win at 38-27, and they're in first place in the SEC East. Dave, your tweet summed it up in the middle of the game. Georgia? I mean, Georgia loses in double overtime to South Carolina at Georgia.
On their third quarterback, too.
In a game that South Carolina did everything it possibly could to not win.
Yes. I mean, that is shocking to me.
I don't quite understand it. We saw that South Carolina team a couple weeks ago and thought, okay, they're okay. They're flawed. I mean, they're not great at anything. Right. But, man.
Here's what that reminded me of. You remember from about, after Bob Stoops built up his reputation as, you know, Big Game Bob and all that, from about 06 to 12, they would lose a game every year that you just go, what are they doing?
Right.
But mostly then what they would do is say, oh, now I understand. Now we got to try. And they would beat everybody the rest of the season by 40 points. So either Georgia isn't nearly as good as we thought, or Georgia just got woken up and it's going to be real unfortunate for everybody else that plays them.
No doubt. And the Florida game, Florida stuck with LSU for a while, and then the Tigers pulled away in the end by 14.
No moral victories, but I thought Florida represented itself pretty well in that game. LSU was so good. I mean, they are Alabama good. From what we've talked about Alabama the last few years, and I think they're better than Alabama this year, but they're as good as Alabama's been the last few years. Not great on defense, but they don't have to be. And, you know, for Florida to hang around there, show some offense, I was pretty impressed with what they did.
I mean, Florida's got to be the favorite in the SEC East at this point, right?
Yeah.
I think they're trending better than Georgia, sure.
I mean, if you took a poll between the 3 teams who wins today, I think Florida gets the most votes.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And how bad is football in the state of Mississippi when Tennessee beats Mississippi State?
I laughed a couple weeks ago when people were talking about Joe Moorhead taking the Rutgers job. Joe Moorhead might want to go take the Rutgers job.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem like a great fit. I mean, that program was, you know, steadily climbing under Dan Mullen, and now losing to Tennessee.
Dan Mullen seems to be able to coach.
Yeah.
I'm fairly impressed with him.
Doing okay. The team that Missouri plays this week is Vanderbilt, and Vandy lost at home and got housed by UNLV.
They're a disaster.
A one-win team.
I mean, they're better than Rutgers, I think, but I think that's the only Power 5 team they're better than.
Yeah, if you look at the numbers, this is hard to do. They're last in the SEC in every major stat. Scoring offense, scoring defense, total offense, total defense, rushing defense, worst passer rating, worst defensive passer rating. I mean, they're bottom of everything.
Derek Mason's got to get like that Randy Edsall contract where he gets like a $2,000 bonus for third down conversions in a game.
I mean, they beat Northern Illinois. Is that
yeah, 24-18.
Yeah.
And Missouri's already a 21-point favorite on the road.
Yeah. I think that's low.
Yeah.
I mean, unless, some of the responses on Twitter were Vandy's going to save their coach. Why didn't they do it last week when UNLV was in town?
I have a friend who covers Vandy who said Missouri will double that.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
There you go. Well, we'll talk about that a little bit more. Plus, we'll check your tweets. We'll take a timeout right now. You're watching Tiger Sidelines on MC22. Welcome back. This is Tiger Sidelines on MC22. Gabe DeArmond, Dave Matter, and I'm Bo Bayman, ready to answer your questions on the old tweet machine. At Tiger Sidelines is where we are. Our first question says, I attended the South End Zone open house this past MU homecoming weekend. $98 million can get you quite a lot, and it's a great recruiting tool. But does this facility just bring MU back to par with the other SEC football facilities, and does MU still lag behind the top-tier programs?
Yeah, I mean, it puts them right where they should be, right? Kind of in that middle of, I mean, it's nice. It's a lot better than what they had. And a few years ago, a coach told me, look, you don't have to have the best facilities. You just can't have ones that kids walk away and say, oh, man, that was terrible.
Well, and Missouri doesn't get near the top support in the SEC, so why should they have the top facilities? I mean, there's a way to have the top facilities.
Well, they should use all the extra ticket revenue to... Oh, wait.
Exactly. Jonathan Johnson did an outstanding job as a receiver. However, that was surely the last time we'll see him as a return man, correct? He looks scared doing it.
Yeah, I can't see him.
Something's not
And let's
clicking.
remember that it's supposed to be Rashad Floyd who was injured.
Yeah, good point. After seeing some practices, if you all had to predict a basketball starting five, what would it be?
Okay, let's rephrase this. After seeing one practice
A
where they
open
didn't
practice.
scrimmage.
Right.
I don't know. They'll start Drew Smith, Mark Smith, Jeremiah Tillman for sure. Probably Javon Pickett.
I would say Pickett over Watson.
Yeah.
And then at the 4, it's one of the 2 freshmen.
Yeah, Kobe
Or
Brown,
Mitchell
I would
Smith.
say maybe at this point.
Yeah.
Do you all think the basketball staff would or could be interested in pursuing Jalen Terry?
Yeah, I mean, he's a kid. He was committed to Michigan State. He decommitted yesterday. Missouri was in his top 5. They missed out on Caleb Love. I assume they want a point guard. I assume they would still want him.
Yeah, no question. Steve says, how much attention do you feel future opponents will have to pay the unique formations Mizzou used on Saturday?
I really read that as uniform formation.
I mean, the way that these staffs have like 19 analysts now, they will pay attention to everything. I mean, Missouri does the same thing. So, yeah, there was some unique formations out there, and you have to get ready for them.
I thought that was one of Derek Dooley's best efforts. I mean, Yasir Duran at slot receiver has to be setting something else up down the road. You know, we saw Beatty and Roundtree on the field together a couple times. There's been a lot of 2 tight end sets. So
They had 1 3 tight end set when they threw to Albert O down the seam. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. They got to be setting something up for later on. What improvement since the beginning of the season seems to be the most important? Not turning the ball over?
Tackling.
Yeah.
Tackling, on those long runs at Wyoming. Okay, question 1. So do we need to root for Georgia to win versus Florida? I read your article, but I could use some additional clarification. Let's answer that one
All right.
first.
So basically, they both have 1 loss. One of them's going to come out of that game with 2 losses. It really comes down to whether you think Georgia beats Auburn or not. If you think Georgia's going to beat Auburn, then you need to root for Florida to win that game because you can still beat Florida at home. If you think Auburn beats Georgia, then you want Georgia to give Florida another loss. But the bottom line is Missouri's going to have to win one of those 2 games. They're not winning the East by losing both games.
Absolutely. What's Konzo got up his sleeves recruitment-wise? Feels like something is up his sleeves, not sure why. Maybe it's Jalen Terry.
Have we ever known the answer to this question?
No. He's got short sleeves on, and we can't see up them.
When did Dawson Downing become our best running back, says Blake?
Still waiting.
Pump the brakes on that one.
But it was a great run. It was a great
but
run.
I've seen a lot of people since that game say he needs more carries. No, he needs exactly what he got there. Because if you give him 20 carries, it's not like 1 out of every 6 is going for 55 yards. Larry Roundtree's the best running back on the
And
team.
Larry proved that on Saturday. He was really good.
Yeah.
He was really good.
This is something that Gabe was talking about earlier. Tyler says, how do you do the power rankings in the SEC East right now? Are we the 3rd best team or the 2nd best?
I tend to rate these on, who has the best wins. Georgia still beat Notre Dame. That's a better
Florida
win.
beat Auburn.
I'm just saying compared to Missouri. That's a better win than anybody they have. And Florida's win at Auburn was pretty good. So that's why I would kind of put both of those teams ahead of Missouri.
And because I haven't seen Missouri beat anybody that's really even close, I'd go Florida, Georgia, Missouri right now. But oddly, if I was asked who has the best chance to win the East, I might reverse it. Like, looking at schedules, Missouri has the best chance to win this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, isn't Missouri's best win South Carolina?
South Carolina or, Ole Miss was a nice win, but record-wise, it's not going to be great at the end of the year.
South Carolina looks a lot better after last week.
Yeah, no question. We obviously gave up more points to Ole Miss than we have in a while. How did the defense adjust to being without Cale Garrett? Any concerns moving forward with the D's ability to stay where they have been?
Now, I'll be concerned if they give up 27 to Vandy this weekend.
Right,
but-
absolutely. No, I thought they were fine. I mean, they're not going to score a touchdown every week. The law of averages say that's not going to happen all the time. So I don't discredit what they did just because they didn't get an interception return for a touchdown. But they did their job for the most part.
And let's not forget, Ole Miss had 7 points for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, they really did. Have either of the Cale's backups stood out to you? Do either of them look to be stepping into that defensive leadership role?
They don't need to be leaders. Right. Like they don't.
That's
they're not,
Jordan Elliott and Nick Bolton.
Right.
Yeah.
And DeMarcus AC and those guys that have played more.
They got guys that'll step up.
I
in
mean,
that
it's
spot.
pretty clearly, I know Jamal Brooks is a fan favorite, but Cameron Wilkins is the guy. Jamal Brooks is going to fill in a couple series of games.
Sure. Is the NCAA enforcement branch the worst run business employment model in the history of jobs?
I just have to think about it, but I assume not.
It's interesting, too, now that you're 5-1, 2-0, a path to the East, now people are going back to the NCAA
Well, and
stuff.
it's like people haven't paid attention and are just discovering this is an issue this week.
I think I want to give credit and assume everyone read what we reported back in January, and I think most of them have forgotten it and it just didn't attach it to muscle memory or something, because I'm getting bombarded with questions now of things that was pretty set in stone, not too long ago. But we'll see. I mean, news could be out next week, I think at the earliest, on what this is going to be. But, if one thing to make clear, if the postseason ban sticks, they can't play in the SEC championship game. It's not a bowl ban. It's a postseason ban.
And a bowl game can't just go, well, we want Missouri, so they're coming to our bowl game. And I know that can't happen.
And we don't expect this to happen, but if it drug out to, let's say, January 15th, they could play.
Absolutely, just like the softball team.
Yeah. All right. Jason says, are you interested to see which Missouri players are drafted in the XFL and how they'll do in that new league?
What is a kind way to say not even a little bit?
Well, the draft is going on as we record this right now.
As we speak.
There's a few Missouri guys in the pool. Nobody that's going to really...
I mean, I barely pay attention to Missouri guys in the NFL. I'm definitely not watching the NFL.
It's not going to move the needle a whole lot, I don't think.
What did I see? $55,000 salary for the XFL?
It's a little less than Tiger Sidelines host.
That's not very much money to go out there and beat your head into somebody else's head every week.
No question. All right, thank you for all the tweets. Don't forget, again, we are at Tiger Sidelines on Twitter. When we come back, we'll talk about that basketball practice, whatever it was, that happened on Saturday. We'll talk about that next. You're watching Tiger Sidelines on MC22. Welcome back, everybody. This is Tiger Sidelines on MC22. Dave Matter, Gabe DeArmond, and I'm Bo Bayman. Breaking news, LaDamian Washington has been drafted in the XFL to St. Louis.
The Battlehawks, yes.
The Battlehawks, so he's staying home. Okay. The West Middle School head coach has a new gig.
West Middle School coaching search, huh?
Yeah. So LaDamian Washington.
The hot board.
On the hot board. Hey, let's talk about the basketball team. You got a first... I guess you can only call it a first look at the team going through drills or whatever they did on Saturday.
I think one guy I was impressed with was Mario McKinney, freshman guard, and the other guys were too. Konzo said he's by far their most improved player since June. Now maybe that's saying he didn't show up in the best of shape or something, but he was really high on him. Jeremiah Tillman was really high on him. I think he's going to factor in somehow. Now they got a lot of guards, so it's not like not everybody can play 40 minutes, but I just think it adds to the depth that they'll have in the backcourt.
One thing we didn't touch on was a little off-the-court trouble for Torrance Watson.
Yes, DWI was it last week? Reported last week by Dave. Yeah, it happened a while ago, but Konzo had a really good answer on that. I mean, I said on our board, and people got mad at me, like off-season suspensions, I don't really know what the point of those are, but whatever. I'm not going to make a big deal of it.
He was suspended. He's already back.
Right. Yeah. He did some internal discipline. We can bank on that,
I'm
sure.
Threw up,
Yeah. The volleyball team lost to Ole Miss 3-1. The Tigers now 10-4, 2-2. They'll travel to Auburn on Friday. They host Tennessee on Sunday. Speaking of Tennessee, the soccer team finally got win number 1 in the SEC. That was on Sunday, 2-0 over the Vols. A much-needed win as the team is now 1-4-1 in the league.
Vols still can't go unbeaten on a weekend in football.
Or football. Yes, Tigers travel to Kentucky on Friday. All right, let's talk about the football games upcoming. First of all, number 9, Florida, at suddenly resurgent South Carolina.
I don't think the Gamecocks can do it 2 weeks in a row, but maybe Florida comes down a little bit after having to get so high for LSU. So maybe that game is competitive after Auburn.
And that game actually is huge. If South Carolina manages to win that, everything kind of looks a whole lot different about the SEC East. I don't think they will,
But if it happens. All right, other games, number 12, Oregon, at number 25, Washington. Does Oregon stumble there? Probably not.
I don't think so. They look pretty good. I mean, they destroyed Colorado over the weekend. They look like by far the front runner in the Pac-12.
Kirby Smart might be trying to get Jacob Eason back right about now.
Yeah, no kidding. Number 16, Michigan will be at number 7, Penn State. Penn State with a big win on the road at Iowa this past week.
Good game. You know, neither team has been outstanding this year, but you know somebody's gonna stay alive in the Big Ten, whatever division they're in, East Hunt.
And
The Big Ten, good one.
Yeah.
And Penn State seems to play way better at home than they do.
Yeah, and they hadn't played anybody up until Iowa, so they didn't have any kind of resume. But that's a decent win for them.
I would turn that game on for the first 30 seconds because it's the whiteout, and that's really cool. And then it's going to be 14-10, and you're going to watch like every other Big Ten game that Ohio State's not in.
So number 22 will be at Vandy. As we mentioned, it's a 21-point spread. As we record, it could get even higher, and Vandy is, I mean...
I'm a little surprised that Derek Mason's still their coach today.
Right.
I guess at this point he's going to be the coach for the season, but I can't imagine that he is after the season.
I wonder if they're just doing it until they can't be bowl eligible. You know, 2 more losses and that'll be true. And I don't know who you promote. I mean, in his place. I also, not only I think Missouri will cover, that Missouri might have more fans there.
Oh, no question. And well, it's weird, like you said. I mean, they've got a guy who was supposed to be the best running back in the SEC. They've got a guy who is one of the 2 best tight ends in the SEC. They've got a really good receiver, and they're awful.
Yeah. They brought in a quarterback from Ball State, and that has not worked out at all.
If Vandy played Arkansas this year, it might just go scoreless to 9 overtimes.
This is seriously one of those games, and everybody says it, it's a cliche, but you can't let them hang around.
No, because they haven't been in a game in a while.
I don't even think they can hang around, man.
Right.
I mean, if you lose this, this would be a worse loss than Wyoming.
Oh, absolutely.
For sure.
Yes, at this
for
point,
sure.
yeah.
So we'll see what happens this week, and we'll talk about it next week. It's got the marquee matchup on CBS at 2. Oh, wait, no, it doesn't. It's a 3 o'clock kick, which you guys kind of like, right? 3 o'clock, okay?
I mean, it's better than 6.
Better than 6.
I'm not going, so yeah, they'd play whenever they want this week.
There you go. We'll talk about it next week on Tiger Sidelines. For Bill, Matt, and Brian behind the scenes, that is Dave Matter and Gabe DeArmond. I'm Bo Bayman. Thanks for watching Tiger Sidelines. We'll see you next week right here on MC22.